one's in New York. So the San Antonio one is the one I went to. Hawaii.
It's crazy. I don't know how many I've lot. I don't have to drive around. Of course,
Maybe they're
make
just
it easier
waiting to
to pick
get
them
your
up when we're done, but
signature on
that's,
it as
it's
a
So
ridiculous.
much fun.
Memento.
Me too.
daughter. Yeah, well, both kids swam. Who?
Mike,
You're already getting married. Like,
Oh, I do.
Thank you,
know
Don.
her. I do. Christine is such a
Well, heads
sweetheart.
up
What's
next
she doing
time.
now?
Living great.
That's no fun.
Wow.
Ready to go.
You
the
know,
memo.
not to
Very-
babysit them. but
Such
yeah,
a
help out.
sweetheart. Yeah, her and Beth Ann swam together.
We are good to go whenever you're ready.
Okay, sounds good. And what about Musab? Is he going to be joining us?
I don't know.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, could we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's start with roll call. Peter Belmonte.
Here.
Amy Battaglia.
Here.
Josh Feldman.
Here.
Brian is going to be a bit late, but he will be joining us after 7. Kaylee McDonald.
Here.
Scott Johnson.
I'm here.
Mary Ann Jason. I am here also. Could I have a motion to accept roll?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. All right. The board is in receipt of a statement of charges against a tenured employee. May we have a motion to go into executive session to consider charges pursuant to section 3028 of the education law?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That is 6-0. May I now have a motion for the superintendent to produce the personnel records of the employee named in the charges without stating the employee's name on the record? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. 6-0. We will be back.
Well, the thing is. So it's difficult. I brought my boss. my Friday. Baseball. Well, obviously. Probably their next.
We're presenting.
Good to see you. Good to see you. You came to this. What's going on? Are you presenting?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Science group.
You're gonna get your back or anything. Say something. I'll say something. Awesome. Cool. Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
We're on camera. That's amazing. It's recording and it's. As we're talking.
You signed.
I can see you. See you in there. Hey. No. Look here. I see.
And then it's like.
Only so many, so much. Yep, I got it.
So.
More better.
Would you like
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not.
I applied.
Buddy. Do you remember this? Do you remember this? Yeah. How are you, buddy? Can I get a hug? What's new? Oh my goodness gracious. How's it been?
You like new school? Yeah, it's so nice to see you, buddy. Hi, I work at Heritage Heights. I remember.
You're the.
Mrs. Gugino.
Yes.
Gino, let's start. Gino, let's.
I didn't teach pre-K, but I was right behind you. So I took all the time.
I can't.
You gotta have.
Well, buddy, I need to tell Mrs. Wendell that I saw you. She's gonna be so excited to hear that I saw you.
Look it.
That's so adorable. Is he doing well? I'm so glad to hear it. Yes.
But Cheryl was.
I have to have you.
Or it's like-
Yeah, I understand. Yes, I just said word.
Minnie had it.
Who's that?
Who's
Who's that? Who's that? You can see now?
Yes.
I do little stem. Oh.
Chair. I'm a chair. I'm a chair. Sit. That's not way to work. Great. Is
No.
Yeah. I don't know if, yeah.
So it was April. Oh, but now you're. She wasn't. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to just do it like, I don't do Spanish. So I can rattle off data.
what is that?
What's on here?
What is this? Wow.
I think you had it in keep.
Yeah, that and that.
Ready?
It's just
Right here.
walking dog.
Yeah.
But I guess once she.
Do you know Marceline? This is Marceline.
Oh, of course, I know.
There's her artwork.
Oh, you're, I see. I was
She's a
thinking
junior.
this year.
I know, that's why she did it this year. because she
All
was
right.
taking No art.
She'll have to come visit us. Hey, how are you?
How about you? We're just not set up.
I don't know. I just, I know that they're from the elementary school.
I know. Back in June.
Yeah,
It's just harder. in-
yeah. Do they want to talk? Well, that's
And I was like, you. I get. this. You're like,
Last year. Spoke about that same issue. You hear that? Last year around this time, parents came and spoke about the cafeteria, but nothing was ever done about it. Nothing was ever done.
Guess I'm just gonna let him present.
Oh, good. Woo!
Tiptoe out of here.
Tiptoe what now?
Devin's funny. He's helping me today take pictures. He was holding the paper in the
I
back.
like it.
So he's like, background credit to me.
Karen,
Cyanotype.
yeah. She. Her class, and took a class neurology colors. Showed me the teacher's artwork. Which I thought she. Well, they're probably in there right now, right?
Yeah.
Teachers are plastic. She used those to make. And it was very cool. But they looked really cool. I'll use this
Yeah,
one
yeah.
there, Sarah. Not that many seats. But we could probably get more.
How did you do your hair in the? Probably a little bit about the art show and the Dana show first, and then Susanna will talk about the show. So just when she calls your name, then you just come up and we're gonna kind of just do this. You could just sit, any, if there's time to see. Like you you here by yourself or? Oh, okay, yeah, so we're just, you can take that. We're just, I mean, we're just kind of sitting, we're just sitting down there, there's a couple empty seats, but there's a lot of seats, so I don't know if you wanna. Thank you. So we're just gonna call her name, like, we're gonna talk about the art shows, and then we're just gonna, this is gonna.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Show, she'll just call your name on, just walk up with her. You'll see all the other kids, you'll be last and after.
I'll get you.
Someone else. Fix that.
Here.
It's more painful for us. They said be here by 7, so I was just sitting out there, little board meeting. Should be coming home. Do you have to thank? That's a good one. But we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna talk about the demon show first, so you'll be the first little one. Basically, we're gonna, the 3 of us will get up and we're just gonna talk about the shows. I'll just say like these. And I'll call you up. And you can just work this up. You'll kind of see. They'll just kind of get like, you can like kind of stand like that, show them, and then they're gonna want to see it. It's kind of yeah. Just to them personally, like they'll just be like, you guys should those speeches. I would have worn it. Yeah, if I just say wherever, like it's kind of tight, I don't know.
Got a seat out for Kristen, and we could always bring more seats. People come. Teacher pictures. You put those on top of them.
They have, you can buy, same idea, so I know type is small. So you can get it like Joanne fabrics, and you can paint it, yeah, you can paint it on the fabric and do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right there. So I told her she would be the first. She'll get to see.
Oh my gosh.
She's gonna do AP next year. She wasn't going to. She's so good. So you changed too? Did you go shopping? I did. That's what I like. That's hysterical. I'm campus. I didn't write down stuff for you. It's fine. I've moved ahead. Is it okay if I go first? Or I didn't, I mean, yeah, just, can I just go first? I was just gonna start, I was just gonna do the Damon. And then do you have a lot more kids, I think, too. At least that one. I would have. How many?
2. I know, I don't know.
Just have 2.
I just have 2 right now, so. Do we pick her up?
Well, I just want to put her outside. So I figure if I start, then I can like, you can wrap it up.
I'm just gonna say.
Stay apologize.
I'm not gonna remember
No, look,
that.
I wrote-
Okay.
I can never remember that. Oh, that's you. And this is Caitlin's piece. And this is Ashi's, not the piece that was in the. We have a little theme going on. They're gonna be like. As she just did on her own.
Just got into shuffle up. Like, been a long time.
The whole time. Where'd you go to? J. Crew.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot. I'm always like, oh, go to the mall. It's like, but there's national boulevard's right here. G Crew's right here. I love that place.
I need an outfit.
I do too. I go there all the time. TJ Maxx. Did when they had it in one big store, it's like two. It's nice. No, and it's crowded. I could never go there. I went the other day. Oh, no. Said maybe. I think they're in that exact. Oh, okay.
So they came. And then they left. You didn't do that.
6:30 is when they started. The meeting was supposed to be at 6:30. Sherry
Said come and
said come at 7 because they had executive council. Remember that one time she did.
Oh, and I had students that were missing.
Yeah, Lamont has to leave. So we have to. I haven't been to a Buffalo. It's also the Carl Pelly Raiders, though. It's all the protesters. Yeah, we just went for a lot. So I see her supposed to be here. Just she had junior.
She's dreaming now.
She thinking about it.
We'll talk to her about it. She's incredible.
This is a little small. I mean, it's like 12. Oh, you just got dressed there.
I get dressed here.
Oh, but yeah, and then I brought it back. I was in the gap.
Here, I'll get that
I
chair.
brought it back in the size store. Oh. That happened to me. And I don't speak for away because. That's theirs? No. Oh, this is. Thank you.
She. Watch her hair. She's amazing, and she's not taking any art.
She's like best friends with Sarah.
Get him a chair.
No, I didn't. It's okay.
Seriously.
Oh my God, believe me, I'm not.
No.
They're the best. Just like it was on there. I don't know if it picked off or if it's something on it. She's like, that's okay, that's how I turn it into AP. I'm like, that's fine.
Oh, there.
Senior students. 1, 2. So I'm reading on the show, I'm like, you guys are coming tonight. So last year, one of them, I'm like, it was money. I think maybe more. So that's when I was like desperately trying to get like kids off of Facebook, like the alumni to come and a bunch came. And I was like, I did, I put out the invitation. I don't know if it went out,
I'll try to come.
It was just like. Whatever, I ended up talking to like
Using
Alice
Michael.
Woodford and Emily Detect and Emily.
Yes.
I'll be the Christian.
Remember Michael Reeves? Almost
No,
won an
what
award.
was that?
He must be. Marketing. But he did video. He was in the running. Five different.
Alpha Valley.
Michael Johnson too, he only took graphic design, he was leading. When they were in high school, not anymore, but he's at, well, he was at Taylor's thing, he's at Taylor's thing
probably know
because
his
his
face.
girlfriend is an artist, so they were the 5 weeks exchange of touch all again now or there. And he's awesome too, like he's a co-writer.
Or it's 25.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3. I forget, I know the environment first. That's what I
Yeah,
catch.
yeah.
That's why I have my eyes on
Yeah.
that. I find it.
And I know you.
No.
We got to do.
Hey, what's up? Good, how you doing?
Good to see you. I cannot read it.
Oh, good. Musab, hi. No, John, it's cold in here.
I love the look. that you
Yeah,
guys
I
say
get
that.
nothing. I get nothing.
It's my favorite look of the day.
Mush one of you guys.
Just George Santos has been charged with federal criminal charges. Guy that lied about everything downstairs, become elected representative.
Hmm.
No, for this federal level.
Oh.
He's been quiet since he got there mostly, but
Sorry.
on, can sit up there.
Warm up quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a good group here.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. All right, are we good to get started? Thank you, everybody, for being patient with us. We're returning from executive session. Could I have a motion that pursuant to Education Law 1711, the individual named in the charges just considered by the board in executive session be placed on suspension from administrative leave pending the outcome of an Education Law 3028 tenured teacher disciplinary proceeding?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. No comment will be made respecting any action taken by the board. That takes us next to our public hearing on district safety plan and code of conduct.
Actually, we're gonna do the art show.
Oh, let's do the art show first. Kids have to go home and do homework. Let's do that next.
So, thank you, Mrs. Jason. We're really excited to have some of our very talented art students with us tonight and to display some of their work and talk about the awards that they have won. You're up, and we'd love to have Mrs. Purick and Mrs. Parigi talk about the great work that they're doing and the great work that their students are doing.
Thank you. We also have Mrs. Van Valkenburg here
Oh,
tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for inviting us here as always. I feel like it's been a little bit, right, with COVID that we haven't really had these opportunities to get our kids' work out into the community. But this year was really the first year that we had full exposure, and we even have a couple more shows coming up that we'll talk about. It's a perfect opportunity for me too to throw in a little plug. This week we have our senior art show. Here it'll be at the high school in the art studios. It's going to be on Thursday and it's all day long. So if anyone's in the building during the day, come on down. And then we'll have it again at night from 6 to 8 p.m. And then this year, sort of a special occasion, alumni Taylor Heald is actually donating his gallery space in Buffalo at the Crucible Art Collective. And our students will have an opportunity to show their work for approximately a week. And we'll have an opening reception. It's May 27th from 6 to 9 p.m. And I'll make sure to plug that. I think it's on the website as well. And we have an Instagram page that a student, Caitlin Bechtel, had set up for us. And so we put a lot of our information on that too. So if you're not following that, HHS Art Department, so you can see a lot of things there that are going on. So this year we had 3 shows that we're recognizing students for right now. We do have a couple others, as I said, that are coming up, but we wanted to focus on these 3. So the first one is the Damon University All High Show, and we have that every year. Teachers can put in 3 students' work, and oftentimes students get awards, which actually are equivalent to scholarships if they choose to go to Damon. And we had 6 students participate in that show. And a few of them are here tonight. So Marceline Nickbay was the first one. Come on up. And so the students who are here have their work and they'll show you their work. We had Moth Rivers, Lily Ratinsky. Oh, Lily is. There's Lily. And then not with us tonight were Isabella Klein. Oh, Isabella is here. I'm sorry. Sorry, Isabella is not my student. I don't know. Sorry, Isabella. April Cavalon. She's not here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Ashi Acharya, and Ashi's not here tonight, but this is her piece, and she did win an honorable mention. This is actually not the piece. She had it at home, but this is very indicative of her work. And she actually won a $1,000 scholarship for her work. She's not going to Damon though. So, but anyway, so that was her work. So do you want to like come up and show them?
Yeah,
Show
come
them,
around.
all the
come
people.
around.
Yeah, come around, show your work.
Why don't we come to you maybe?
Thanks.
Are we
Isabella.
shaking? Are we showing?
Good, congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah, very
Awesome work. You know, that's fine. No worries. No worries. That's very nice. Congratulations. You're welcome. Yeah.
I draw really good stick people.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Congratulations. Thank you. You're welcome.
I work at David, so I did.
I'm good. How are you? Looks awesome.
This all in.
Awesome,
They
awesome.
call
I
those-
know.
Pretty neat, yeah.
It's like origami.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's,
You have a look at that.
Or is it?
if I touch it, is it?
Correct.
Oh, it's like
Correct,
hard
right?
paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, cardstock.
That's very cool.
Congratulations. Oh.
Okay.
What
Oh,
talent.
that's pretty cool.
What talent.
What is the one that she had, that she wanted to show similar to this?
Congratulations.
Wow, that's beautiful. Congratulations. Oh my
Such
goodness.
talent.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
wow, that's beautiful.
Very
talented. Wait,
Good job.
We had another show at Buffalo State College. It was a high school invitational. Caitlin Bechtel, Moth Rivers, Maya Mancino, April Cabalon, and Sarah Burdette. So if they could come up, some students aren't here.
yes, Sarah and Maya are up here.
Yeah, whoever's here, come on up. We forgot to bring your other one. Sorry about that. And Sarah Burdette.
And everybody?
Okay. So you guys can go and show your work.
It was,
Congratulations again.
And just a quick side note, Sarah Burdette did win an honorable mention as well at the show.
Oh, awesome.
Nice
And this
job.
is Caitlin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Very cool.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Colors.
oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my goodness.
Thank
Yeah, like. Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, exactly.
I could look at that for
Yes.
And how long did it take her to do that?
Caitlin, like a couple weeks.
Any other could have been.
Yeah.
I could stare at this for hours. This is stunning.
So
Wow.
talented.
Oh my gosh. It's gorgeous. Wow.
Nice.
Okay, all right. Last but not least, so photo, it's been a few years because of COVID that we haven't had the opportunity to show our work. But one of the most prestigious shows in Western and Central New York is the Keenan All High Photo Show. And so we participated for the first time since COVID this year, and we did super great. We won 4 awards and we were 1 award short of winning Best Photography School in Western and Central New York. So we did really, really well. So I had 10 students in that show, and I'm going to list them. Some of these students were my students last year, but because they weren't able to be in that show, I took 5 from last year and then 5 from this year. So the following students were in the show: Amber Murak, Hunter Tryloff, Catherine, she's here. Catherine, say your name the right way because I always say it the wrong way. I always say it wrong and I'm like, I don't know, it's very French sounding. But Catherine did amazing because she won Best Documentary Photojournalism Award. So there's your award. Nicole Shen, she's not here today either. And her piece, where's her piece? Her piece, I think, is actually,
At the other show right
it's
now.
at the other show right now.
Villa Maria.
Yeah. Okay. But she also won a really great award too. She won the Next Vision Award of Excellence. Both of them won money with these awards too, right? Yes. Yeah. So they both won, which was great. I'm sorry, I'm going through my list. Olivia Kazara, Sarah Reed, Eli Batchelor, Anders Tyson, Tessa Gothard, who's here? Tessa, come on up. And Doreen Asaldi, come on up. Doreen won an honorable mention for hers as well. So Doreen, this was your official ribbon for that. And her piece is really powerful. So we did really well. We also won Best Still Life That was Amber Murak, and we won best. Yep, that was it. Yep, 4.
That was
So 4 awards. So we did really, really great.
Very cool. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Congratulations.
Showing off.
Very impressive.
So I was
Nikki, how are you? Congratulations
We
to
have a
your
bunch
team.
of stuff, but
Dominic, I called you Kristen again. You know what I meant, but I'm sorry.
That's you.
Yeah, hey, Dominic.
So very cool. Oh, my goodness. That's great.
Yes,
Awesome. Awesome.
really awesome.
Great work.
Yeah.
Yes, it's stunning.
That's what it worked.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it looks
That's
so
so
good.
cool.
We're not hungry. Can you dump?
I just got chills. It's beautiful.
I would love that. Please, let's get I got plenty of space in the house. I'd love it.
He does have a lot of white space.
That's
Wow.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, those are so cool.
Thank you.
Are they gonna?
I know in the past you've had artwork up at the district vote. Are we going to have some artwork up at district vote?
Sure we will.
Excellent, thank you.
So thank you for being here tonight, for our teachers being here and for our students being here. It was awesome to see. And when we got the note, the email that we had a lot of award winners, we just had to have you here and recognize you. And so thank you to you, to the students, to their families for being here tonight. We really appreciate your time. And you're more than welcome to stick around if you'd like to see a public hearing on our code of conduct and other fun things tonight. But if you have other great things to do, you're also sure can go and do those things right now.
It is
So,
60 out. I mean.
yes. And the sun is still out, sort of.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
thank you for being here.
And I'll take.
Guess I
Not a clear
So
room.
walking in.
Sure. And then if you want to.
Reports of signs were greatly exaggerated. It's all wrong.
Okay, good. Okay, okay, good.
Kristen, you need
Oh,
help?
I should have said
You
something.
need help?
No, it's okay.
Sure.
I forgot to mention, 5 of our photo students are currently on display at Villa Maria. We have one more photo show that we are in. So I haven't heard any announcements about winners yet.
Let
I
us
will let you know.
Let us know.
Okay.
All right, so do you want to move on to the agenda?
Yeah,
Let's just follow our.
I'll follow the
Yeah,
agenda and then
let's follow,
superintendent.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll do that. All right, so next is the approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Next is the approval of minutes of the previous meeting. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next is communications. Has anyone received any communications?
Did everybody get the email today about the stars? breakfast?
I didn't get, it.
It was emailed.
All right. I'll have to look.
That one and for the fire, the gentleman.
Oh, the
Yeah.
gentleman from the John from the
Thank you.
fire,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I got that one. Anything else? Okay, next that takes us to our first open session. Any takers? Okay, well, hold on, let me read. So as per board policy 1512, we hold 2 open sessions at each meeting. This first session is limited to comments only on agenda items for tonight's meeting. The board welcomes attendance and participation by district residents, people having business within the boundaries of the school district, and people who do business with the Board of Education. Speakers must be at least 16 years of age and will be limited to 3 minutes. Please preface your comments with your name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate. Non-district residents must include the name of their business or how they do business with the Board of Education. All speakers in this open session must state which agenda item they are speaking on. We do have an open session towards the end of our meeting, which can be for anything, but this has to be agenda specific. So if you would state which agenda item you are referring to. And you have 3 minutes. Amy's our timekeeper. Any takers? Okay. We shall move on. Next is unfinished business. We have none, and that takes us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Jason. I think we're going to start tonight with an update on science and math curriculum. I'm having some technical difficulties with the presentation, but I will. There we go. All right. Okay, here we go.
Okay, well, I'll make some introductions while you're pulling it up. Dr. Genestri, is that okay?
Perfect,
All right.
perfect, perfect.
Good evening, everyone.
Talk slow.
We are happy to be here to, this is a celebration. We have some recommendations to make in math and science. So joining me, I have some really phenomenal educators. Behind me, I have Kim Gugino from Heritage Heights, Molly DiPuro over at Glendale, Bonnie Lorenz over at Maplemere, and Jamie Riddick from Willow Ridge. They are math coaches at the elementary school. And then we also have a kind of famous here. He's written a book. One of our middle school science teachers, our 6th grade teacher, Alan Bakowitz, he's written The Backyard Bird Sanctuary. It's out there now. Go look it up. And it was released just recently. So we have some, yes. I think if you- There we are. So we have some celebrations and some recommendations to make about science and math. First, as we jump into math, you see, go back to the pictures because I wanted to point out that those are our Sweet Home students engaged in math, loving it. We want to continue that joy of math, and that's work that's going on right now in our schools. Next slide. So we wanted to really look at, as we emerged from the pandemic, really something that you're going to see come up in the strategic plan that we're going to be recommending as we put everything on a 5-year curriculum review. And really our math curriculum has been about 10 years. So we really wanted to take a look at that, to look at the core instruction, the practices, resources, and everything that we use in our Sweet Home classrooms. You see these 2 data slides, they should look familiar. They're from the data reports that we've done in previous presentations this year. You see the New York State elementary math results, proficiency, as well as the middle school results. And as you can see, coming out of the pandemic, that first bar is the before the pandemic, the last one coming out. We've had some decline, and we really want to look at that data deeply and look at what we need to do to continue to improve and help our students continue that love of math. So the team came together. We had the math elementary coaches, the middle school teachers, the principals from across all of the schools. And we came together and we looked at this achievement data. We looked at our math vision, which you'll hear about in a minute, and then our curricular needs. And we recognized the need to have better alignment K-8. So the recommendation that we're making tonight is for K-8 to support the implementation of the next gen standards. So we really wanted to make sure that we had a clear way to bridge the gaps that you would find coming up across the 4 elementary schools and then feeding into our middle school for a better coherence for our students to really help them continue on that love for math all the way K-12. Next slide. So we used this organization, Ed Reports. Ed Reports is a not-for-profit organization that reviews curriculum. They all kinds of every subject, every grade level. And what they do is they try to measure up each curriculum program to say, if you say you are supporting these standards, how good are you? How good are you doing in that? And so if you go to Ed Reports, these little green bars actually become things you can click on it, and it gives you a detailed list of everything that they assessed. So you see there's an opportunity to look at alignment and then usability. So we're talking about usability for students and for teachers. Our current math program is off at the top there, investigations. And as you can see, we have a partly meets and then not rated. And when you're looking at investigations, it's important to note that it was designed prior to Common Core, and now we're beyond Common Core going into next gen. And so we really needed to look at something new. We looked at 3 different programs. And as you can see there's 4 boxes. Let me explain. The top 2 are 2 separate programs, Eureka Math and Zearn. We actually did a deep dive into each. We met with the companies, went through the whole platform. We dabbled a little bit in each one. We went off to actually see these in action in a nearby school. We really did our due diligence to determine that these 2 programs were not the right ones for us. And they had to line up to what our mission and our vision was in the next slide. Oh, no.
Oh, I thought you said that.
So then the last 2 here is where we've landed, illustrative math. And that is the curriculum program, but there are 2 different platforms that we're looking at. There's Imagine Learning and there's Desmos, grades 6 through 8. So you see Imagine Learning is K-5 and Desmos is 6 through 8. And so overall, the recommendation is going to be for illustrative math. Now you can go to the next slide. I'm gonna have Molly.
So when we started coming together, we came together first as an elementary team. And we sat down, we said, okay, we started looking at all these programs and there's a lot out there. And we used those slides that Toya just showed you. And then we decided we got to sit down. We have to really figure out what is it that we want to have a math program? What are our core beliefs? What do we want to keep in place? What do we know about the way children learn math? So we made a list as the elementary team. And then Toya got together with the middle school team and then with some 9th grade algebra teachers. And it was a working document. The middle school added on, the high school 9th grade teachers added on. And then we all sat down together, the 4 of us, some principals and a teacher from each of the grade levels, 6, 7, 8. And we kind of put our ideas together. Where are the overlaps? What do we all really, really believe in? And so the bolded parts, those bullet points on there is really those are our core beliefs. So we wanted to make sure the students were doing some problem solving, that there's still that constructivist approach. That's what aligns the next generation standards. Developing number sense and fluency, that's our big push at the elementary level especially. So we wanted to make sure that was still there. Also the conceptual math to the procedural. We want to make sure the kids understand the concepts first before they're taught the procedures. So that was a really big thing for us as we're looking at different programs. Also then aligning the progressions and the language. We wanted to make sure the language was K-8. So that'll be nice that it'll start to spiral up, that everyone's using the same language. Expressing their math journey. That was big with the middle school, and that's more about showing work. And that then aligns with the elementary school with the math practices and, balancing the problem solving with the constructivist approach and the conceptual math. That all comes with that math journey. And then organize teacher materials and some ongoing professional development for teachers, if that's still in place, so we can still train and work on the mathematics with the teachers. So that's what we looked at. We really had to get that down pat before then we looked at the programs and to see which matched up with all of this.
Next slide. So we kept this at the center of all of our work as we proceeded to visit and unpack and dig into and try out different things. You can go on to the next slide.
This slide here just outlines the work that we've been doing and our projected
outcome for implementing this new curriculum. So as Toya had mentioned, we did start by looking at the ed reports, get an idea of the different curriculums that were out there. We did do a deep dive into the Eureka Squared, Zern, and then illustrative math. We went to a couple schools where we were able to see the Eureka Math Squared, a little bit of the Zern implemented too, just to see how it was working with the students and getting feedback from teachers who are actually currently implementing it. And then we also did a lesson study with the illustrative math. Each of the coaches tried a couple different grade levels. The middle school teachers tried it for about a week in their classroom just to get a real feel about, you know, what the curriculum was like for the teacher end and then how the students were reacting to the lessons. So as we had mentioned, Imagine Learning would be the platform that we would be using for illustrative math K-5. And then we're possibly looking at Desmos as a middle school platform that might work better for the 6 to 8 students. Projected for next year, the rollout would be kindergarten, grades 2, grades 4, and grade 6. And then the following school year would be grades 1, 3, 5, and 7, and then would finish up with grade 8 in 2025-26.
So I'd just like to point out that all of our coaches and our middle school teachers were willing to try any of these different platforms. They were jumping in, which is adventurous because we haven't really done a large amount of training because we're trying to figure out which one do we want to train on. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. You can go to the next slide. And Bonnie and Kim.
Okay, so as mentioned, illustrative mathematics is kind of where we ended up with Imagine Learning being the platform. So it is an open source curriculum. So there is more than one company that we could be, you know, provided with, but we liked this particular company. Their vision was create a world where all learners know, use, and enjoy mathematics. And we really thought that aligned with our vision as well. And when we met with their trainers or developers, we really liked all the things that they had to share with us. This program is definitely best aligned with the program of our math vision of what we've been talking about. It's definitely problem-based teaching and learning, which is what we've been striving for a long time. And it follows that you do, we do, I do structure. So we live that constructivist approach, which we thought was really great. What you kind of happen? They've said a lot of the things that I wanted to say. I don't want to repeat it.
Their whole thing too is that it's telling a math story so that all the ideas and the units are all connected for kids across the units and across the grade levels. The structure of the lessons and units and activities follow a similar format where it's starts with like a warm up or a launch, then there's some study or concept, and then they synthesize it all together at the end. One thing we really loved as part of the program was each unit for K-5 has a video called Inspire Math, and it shows the kids how math relates to their life. So in kindergarten, they had or maybe it was first grade, they had an example at the zoo, and the zookeeper was showing how they feed the animals different vegetables, and then the kids can apply that to adding. So they were adding, you know, however many pieces of food they were feeding the animals. And then they might show it later on in the unit too, where they're using and talking about subtraction. But we really loved that it was showing kids how math connects to their lives. They also have in the program, I feel like it really embraces diversity. So it's most, I guess it's just a lot of different students
groups
and
are
abilities are represented in the program. We really liked that. There's some really great teacher professional development videos for every unit as well. So as much as we want to be with teachers every day, we know we can't do that. So there's these great resources as well. And then we just really felt like it really aligned well to the vision that we have for math and the students in Sweet Home.
And it really follows the structure that you see. It follows the same structure K-8. So we felt like there was a great continuum of like this, they've seen the same thing over and over. So there's no guesswork and it's consistent throughout.
Mm-hmm.
So that was helpful.
You can go to the next slide. So in math, go back to a slide. The thing that we want to make sure that we point out is that we're already gearing up as long as we're in agreement here, we're already gearing up to make sure we have support going into the summer through turnkey training for our coaches and our interventionists, as well as leadership training for our principals, because we think it's important for the principals to have a high level understanding of what it should look like in a classroom, and then gearing up for going into the summer and into next year for training. So we're going to go on to science. Thank you, ladies. You can go to the next slide. So there's a lot here on this slide. I'm gonna have Alan come right on up. So we're looking at a 6 through 8 recommendation here, grade 6 through 8. This is the slide from New York State that highlights the rollout, the phase in and rollout of next gen science standards. So as you can see, in 2016, there was work done around the standards, helping people understand them, curriculum maps. You see that all the way through 2018. The pandemic hit and slowed things down, right? So things were shifted, dates were changed. The plan was pulled apart a little bit, but as you see, as you get up to the 22-23, you see that this year we did not administer a 4th grade science test, and the 8th graders this year will take the last tests from the old standards. Next year, we'll be kicking off a grade 5 and a grade 8 new exam that will be focused in on next gen. And from that point on, every year you see 2 exams coming on board with living environment biology, earth science in the next year, and then chemistry and physics to follow. So it was a big focus on our district being ready with the next gen standards at 2024. So there was work done here in Sweet Home. You go on to the next slide. And Alan's going to talk first about our instructional look force.
So there's a next generation science standards, NGSS, and New York kind of adopted most of those, changed a little bit, and those are NISLS, New York State Science Learning Standards. And the big things that's happening with the new standards is getting away from learning science to doing science, like real hands-on stuff. And so if you look at the 4 bullet points, the big things that are changing are you start off a unit with a phenomenon, some event that they're expected to explain by the end of the unit. And it can be something very common. It could be something esoteric or something. But that's what we start with, and something that they can all engage with. Then we want them to understand and construct understanding with their peers. So it's not just learning by yourself, we're working as a class group, working on these things. The teacher's role is changing. I'm the teacher, I'm helping them by more of a guide and trying to get the, like tease out the information from them, let them do the investigations, find out what they've learned. So it's a whole change there. So they're playing investigations, they're doing it, they're posing questions, collecting their own evidence from their investigations versus just reading a textbook and trying to memorize things. The last one is really great with the program that we're going with, and it's equity. So the way it's designed is that you don't have to have prerequisite knowledge of anything. When you're asking questions, you can ask anything you want on one day at the beginning of the unit just to get interest in it. Just like I'll make notes here. The phenomenon they use, anybody can get access to that, meaning you don't have to have background knowledge in science already, so you can even start the conversation. For special ed students, there is no wall that they have to jump over first. Anybody can get into it. I've had every student of any background able to have a conversation, and maybe one of them is the student with the right answer as we go through it. So it's a big change. So the next slide, I believe.
So you heard me talk about curriculum mapping early on, the pandemic hit. Just before the pandemic, Sweet Home, our district was focusing on digging into our first curriculum program to see if it was the best fit for us, Amplified Science. As you can see with the Ed Report, as stated from before, you can look at any curriculum program with Ed Reports, and you can see that we had a meets expectations and alignment, but under usability, partially meets. So Our science teachers dug into this. They actually did some piloting of units and determined that it wasn't the best fit for us. And during the pandemic, there started to be time that they were looking into Open SciAd. Open SciAd is the curriculum program that we're recommending tonight. As you can see, it meets expectations across the board. And we're really looking at that three-dimensional learning, that phenomena-based instruction, that really identifying the phenomena, but then coming up with a problem, that 21st century skill building that science is so great for. So we're actually looking at the 6 through 8 Open SciAd. Next slide. Here's the rollout and the path we took, similar to the timeline in math, but this one's a little bit more spread out. We started the work just before the pandemic, 2017, 2019, there was that doubling in Amplify. The teachers examined the new standards, next gen. They dug it into the disciplinary core ideas, which are called DCIs, and then pandemic hit, and we've now gone into Open SciAd. With Open SciAd, this year we have piloted a number of different units, and the teachers have actually engaged in some training. So we had a couple of phases of training that we'll talk about later, and that our recommendation is going forward into 23, 24, and beyond, that we continue on with Open SciAd. Why Open SciAd? I think Alan hit it right on the head here. Rigorous design and development framework. We're really looking at the science practices, the cross-cutting concepts, and the core ideas. This all results in a storyline, engaging in a storyline to involve all students, diverse ranges of students. This was important with everything that we looked at with math and with science. We really wanted to make sure that anything that we identified as a curriculum program really had been tested out with all different kinds of subgroups and has had some success. And so you will see that Open SciAd meets that needs, those needs. I'm gonna turn it back over to Alan.
So this is the instructional model for how the units are set up. Sixth grade we're working on our 4th unit out of 6. So every grade level gets 6 units. But per the recommendation from Open SciAd, just kind of work with 4 units, really get the procedures down and routines. So each unit is broken up into this path. So starting from the left, you have an anchoring phenomenon routine. So you start off a unit with a phenomenon, some event. It could be recorded that they give you. It could be something we do in the classroom. And it's called an anchoring phenomenon because that's what we keep going back to. So for example, right now we're looking at a unit on cells, and the phenomenon was a boy dropped the weight on his foot and broke his foot, and there was a cut. So how does the body repair itself? And that is the whole thing all the way through. We keep going back to that phenomenon to find out what we found out so far and what we still need to know. So we start with the anchoring phenomenon. We go to a driving question board. That's like in the 3rd or 4th day of a unit. We spend one whole class period just generating questions from the kids. And I've gone from my first unit this year with maybe going around like once with a question. So we got 24 questions. We just did our unit again. We got 50 questions. So the kids are getting curious again. Just ask a question. We find out what's going on with it. Once we get our questions, then we start doing investigations, but there's also a navigation routine, which is a 3rd one. And they wanted to make the curriculum coherent, not meaning like it's all put together, but coherent for the kid. So when we finish a lesson for the day, we start talking about what we're going to do next. Like, what's the next step we have to find out? We found this out today. What's our next thing that we have to go after? When we meet the next day, we review what we did yesterday. So there's not this disconnect with, sometimes with textbooks, we finish chapter 1 to go to chapter 2. Why? Because it's chapter 2 with no connection between them. So this is really much better. Then we go into the investigations. Investigations could be watching a video, working with manipulatives with cards, maybe looking at cell pictures, asking questions, trying to get them to find out the information versus just reading about it. So them doing the science. And it's really getting down to the best way to learn science is to do it. And that's not just, making doing a lab, but thinking through the process. How do I know this information is answering my question? What questions do I need to ask? If I have a question, how do I find out the information to answer that? So we're really getting down to the thinking behind it. Next, another routine is putting the pieces together. So once you've done a couple investigations and you've got your driving question board, like what can we find out so far? What have we answered? What do we still need to find out? You keep going through the problematizing routine. So you're trying to like take what we don't know and kind of turn it into a problem. So now we're looking at it a different way again. That kind of repeats a couple times. So you're doing navigations every lesson. Investigation, putting pieces together, and problematizing kind of happens a couple times throughout a unit. And then we come to the last one, which is discovery, where we answer our question, going back to the anchoring phenomenon again. So it's not like we just left it behind. We actually come back to it, and then kind of the last units are kind of like expanding that. So like, where does this take us elsewhere? Besides the phenomenon we saw, like where else could you apply this? How else does this work in the real world? So that is the instructional model. Next slide. And then this is OpenSciEd's scope and sequence. So each grade gets 6 units. And different colors represent different branches. So the red is the physical science, blue is earth and space, and yellow, green up there is life science. So it's a spiraling curriculum. So we kind of go back and forth. I can speak well to 6th grade. We did not do 6-1. We started with 6-2, but 6-1 deals with light and matter, for example. So you would learn about light. It can be absorbed and reflected and all that stuff. When you get to thermal energy, the second one, we start finding out that light can also transfer heat. So we get to how you can heat up water in a glass, convection currents. Then you get to weather. That's tied in because we talk about convection in the air. Then we come to plate tectonics. We talk about convection driving plate movement. And it just brings everything back. And for the first year, I've had kids like thinking back 2 units like, oh, we learned about that already. And how does it work here? So it's really nice, coherent teacher-wise. So it's coherent to the kids where they know why they're doing something today and then why we're doing these units in a specific order. It's grade 7 did, I believe, 7.3 and 7.5. And then grade 8 was doing 8.5 and 8.6 is they're checking it out this year, just trying to get their feet wet with the routines. Anything else on that?
So who remembers their chemistry teacher making them memorize the periodic table? My chemistry teacher made me memorize. By the time I became a chemistry teacher, we had stopped doing that because you really should learn about the periodic table through using the periodic table, right? And so that shift in thinking has continued and continued and continued, and now we're here, which is amazing. All the spiraling that happens with the science concepts and students being able to make those connections to every day and apply it to 21st century skill thinking. Next slide. So this is an overview of what we've already done. So this year, we needed to hit the ground running because these standards are expected to be tested and in full implementation next year. So at the start of this year, we came back together, made sure we anchored back in on OpenSciEd, and then we engaged in the pilot units. We engaged in 1 day of professional development. So all the middle school teachers have had a full day of in-person professional development, unpacking a unit and understanding the layout of each of how units are designed. We've done the pilot, at least 2 pilot units, and 6th grade was ambitious. They did 5 of 6. And we have had 2 teachers go through 4-day facilitator turnkey training. Alan was one of those teachers, as well as one of our elementary coaches. So you understand the crossover. Cheryl Aldrich helped with this training, so she will be involved in also helping to support this. For the summer, we're projecting a one-day professional development where we continue to work. There are virtual office hours built into what Open SIAD can offer us that are continuous. And we have at least 4 units that we would like to roll out next year for full implementation at 23-24. In talking to Open SIAD, while there are 6 units that are listed under each grade level, their recommendation is 4 for the first year, because you need to look at the units, prioritize, and develop the system for you rolling out, and then of course grow up to the 6 units being implemented each year. And that would be a part of the work also, a date to prioritize. And questions? Come on back up, ladies.
I have a couple. When you talked about the math situation, the math programs that you were looking at, were there 2 programs we were doing or just the one? Was it the K-8 or was it one for K-5 and one for 6-8?
So it's actually one curriculum program that's illustrative math, but they actually allow companies to develop their own platform to roll out their curriculum. So they have to stay true to the illustrative math. So the curriculum program itself is illustrative math.
Okay.
And the platforms that we're looking at would be Imagine Learning for K-5. That actually goes all the way up to 12th grade if we want to look at extending. The middle school teachers really have had some exposure to Desmos at 6-8. They really feel like it better aligns to what we need at the middle school.
Okay.
So we have a road trip scheduled to go see that in action. But the recommendation for the program is illustrative math.
Okay. And then the Open SIAD is 6-8. How is Cheryl gonna help build that into our elementary science?
Yeah, well, so she's already, so our elementary schools have gotten off to a good start already with Next Gen. They are rolling, the state has put out investigation activities and labs and experiences that our students need to be engaged in. We have been implementing them. We're actually very much ahead as I talk to my colleagues in other districts when I go off to different meetings. They're very impressed with where we are. So because we have science coaches, which is a unique thing, a unique position to have in Sweet Home, and it makes us the envy of folks. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, also Open SIAD released middle school first. So I think what they're trying to do is like just cut in the middle. So 6-3 got released, high school curriculum literally just got released this spring.
Okay.
And then their plan is to kind of come back around elementary. So
Okay.
my understanding, it would be a K-12 or at least a 1-12 curriculum for science.
So at some point, we might be able to extend that down or up or both.
Correct. I think they just wanted to kind of catch kids in the middle and like not wait 12 years to get a change happening. And I know both are open source, meaning that we can modify those things. So that term came up a couple times.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Desmos is set up the same way. That's the platform that we're looking at for math. At the middle school, they started with the middle and they're growing down and then up.
Thank you.
I just, one question. First, you mentioned the periodic table. The only thing I remember is when oxygen decided to date magnesium. OMG. So that's a dad joke.
Okay, that's a science joke I haven't heard.
Right, everybody go home now. We're done. You missed your
But
dad joke.
actually, what I was wondering is you mentioned, I just want a clarification. Did you say the curriculum, the last time it was reviewed, was it 10 years ago?
For math, yeah.
Okay.
We rolled out investigations. Yeah. It actually is closer to 12.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
So 10 to 12 years. And then, and it looks like on the slides here, it says there's a 5-year curriculum review. So I'm just wondering, what is that a standard that we should be looking at this every 5 years? How come it went to 12 years? And is there something in place that we would be, we're reviewing this? And that's question 1A and then 1B is, does it make sense that these are done maybe on a rolling basis, like where, math is this group of 5 years and then, so it's not, I just don't know how they align, or maybe they're better off that they align together.
Awesome thinking. That is part of the recommendation that we will roll out with teaching and learning. That we are recommending that all of our curriculum is put on a 5-year rotation. Not that we have to be implementing new curriculum every 5 years, but that we review it to make sure it still meets our needs. And if it does not, then we look to adopt. We look at exploring, just like we did with these two, and then adopt something new. But we would put it on a rotation so that that work would happen spiraling over 5 years. And it lines up with the new board policy that you all just approved a couple of months ago, that you would be looking at curriculum adoptions every 5 years.
Thank you.
I actually have a couple questions here. First for math. Now that we have our kids pre-K, this goes from K through, anything to get our pre-Ks off to that great start?
We looked at curriculums last year when we were adding the pre-K classrooms, and we just got them the curriculum building blocks, which is a pre-K. This doesn't go to pre-K, but maybe it will.
I was gonna say, none of the ones we've looked at include pre-K. That just doesn't seem to be the standard that's out there.
No, because we've got these kids now, we're.
It's very hands-on. It's very
Yeah,
game-based.
it's very
Yes.
exploratory, which is what it needs to be.
It aligns to the thinking.
So maybe sometime in the future, you could make some money maybe.
Yes.
Just write that.
Include
Go
our
ahead,
our
write that.
pre-K
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
We are-
As we talk to every company, we will mention that we really would like to see that. Right now, we have the building blocks, but yes.
Okay.
Desmos is building down, like
Mhm.
Toya had said, and they were going to include pre-K when they do.
Yay.
Oh, good.
Yay,
Got a
good.
really cool online platform, and that's part of why the middle school likes it so much. It's very interactive between kids. Like, it's something they thought was really fitting for what they're already doing. So we thought, but it hasn't been developed down yet, so.
And for our science, so when you show the instructional model, if a kid's not getting, if the kids aren't getting it, is this model flexible enough to be able to go back and say, okay, they're not getting it, let's figure out what we're not getting. So it's not on like a strict timetable.
Not strict, no. And it is open source, so we can modify some of the activities or, any of the forms that we use. We've done it already. Mr. Brennan next door to me, he comes back with some of the modified forms just because it works better. There is, some time constraints to get the units in. So we'd have to kind of change how we would teach it a little bit to get that in. But yeah, you can totally do it. I think one of the things that helps alleviate part of that is that navigation routine, because you're not just going from today's lesson, coming back tomorrow and starting something brand new. You're actually connecting it back. So, the first couple minutes, say 5 minutes of every single class is reviewing what we just did before. And because you got the anchoring phenomenon, you're always going back to the same thing again. So it's not like you're talking about something all brand new every single day. So it works out pretty well.
And my last question, I have to ask it, cost for all this.
I'm ready.
You knew it was
Cost,
coming.
it's free.
We don't have that.
So with Illustrative, we had investigations that we've been using for many years. We had a 3-year contract, and if you break out the 3 years, it was $49,367 per year. It's going to cost us some to adopt new curriculum because everything costs more today, right? But this year, 23-24, the next year coming up, we've used federal funds to cover the
Can I ask
cost.
if any of this is,
Yes.
aidable?
And we have a 3-year plan for the cost here. The following year, with the 40, so if you take the baseline of the 49,000 and change that we were already spending, we will need to spend a bigger amount that second year because of the cost of teacher additions, kits that we have to buy, but those are all one-time things that once we buy them, we have them. That is an increase of 6,098. I've already been talking to our business official to make sure that we are planning ahead, and we have a plan projected to make sure that we are buying ahead as much as possible. And then that third year, the number drops to the 49,000 plus 22,000. But by then we have all of our teacher additions, all the manipulatives. We have, and the thing that we need to purchase would be the digital student resources and the student print resources, because they do get a workbook that they get to write in. So that's math. For science, we really weren't anchored in on a curriculum in science, so we weren't spending money like we were on math with investigations. Because we started to pilot this year and we purchased a number of kits and things that don't need to be purchased again, we were able to cover that with federal funds. That was 12,700 and change. And then the next year, 23, 24, the cost goes up because we're adding those last final units that we need to add, and it's a bigger number than what we already have. So it's 44,203, also covered federal dollars. And then that last year, when we are in that third year and we're hitting the phase of we only need to buy a small number of consumables and some student workbooks and materials like that, it's down to 17,000.
So change is hard, right? 10 to 12 years is a long time between change. So we only ever really hear kind of the good of the good, bad, and ugly when we sit in the seat. So what are you hearing? Are you hearing any reluctance, whether it's shortfalls in resources or maybe immaturity of the programs? Are you hearing anything, any of the negative? We obviously have a lot of supporters here, but are there any?
You've done a lot of work with teachers already in classrooms. And honestly, it follows a lot of the same things we've already been doing with our current program. So that was actually one of the pros that we liked about it, is it didn't feel really different. But this one's actually, I think, more teacher friendly. The online platform is actually way more teacher friendly than what we've been used to. I think like anything, time is always going to be an issue, right? With a new program, and you're feeling like, I tried a lesson myself and I know what I'm talking about. And I got through an hour. I'm like, I didn't finish. So I think that's something that's going to be hard at first for teachers.
I feel like people are really excited. We found that a lot of times we were having to supplement with other resources if it wasn't, just because investigations wasn't fully aligned. So we're grabbing from here and there. And then you have a district of people doing that. So there's no really
just spend some money
in there.
Yeah, and we even found, and this was something, I don't think we mentioned this, the routines we've been like pulling from other resources, they're actually part of this program. So when we were looking at it, we're like, wow, we already know how to do these things, but it's like in the curriculum versus us having to create it ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We found a lot of great things about it. You know, I think like anything. Yeah. Yeah, which has always been an issue. So we're hoping a little bit.
And it also, I've gone to 3 National Science Teachers Conferences and 3 Stannis ones. And just hearing what's going on with different people around the country, around the state. I've heard a lot of the programs that don't work. And OpenSite is not one of those.
It's fair.
I've come across a lot of teachers from districts where they have no program and they're just kind of trying to find things on their own. And that's just not the way to do this.
I appreciate your approach. Eliminate the variables, right?
Yep. And when I go to these conferences, I check out the vendors and, I sit down for half an hour and, show me what you got. And, knowing that I was thinking OpenSite in the background and just kind of matching it up. So it's just been, I've seen what's out there.
Thank you.
And we will be the leaders in these 2 areas because OpenSciAD, we are among a couple of other districts that are trying to pilot it right now, but it's the leading curriculum program out there. So we're cutting edge. And the same thing with
one point that I heard that I just want to emphasize, because I know it was one of your charges, Dr. Wilson, is to not standardize, but make consistent the curriculum across the buildings. And I'm glad to see that actually happening. So thank you.
Yeah, that was a major focus of ours because I think it was stated already that, you know, when there were gaps, everyone's filling the gaps on their own. And then everyone's getting a different experience at the 4 different elementary schools and then coming together at the middle school. And then the challenge is greater. So, and I will say that this was an emotional experience for everybody, right? It wasn't, so you called out something that we all had to face head on because it wasn't something, change is hard. It wasn't something that we were like, yeah, change. But once we dug into it, we knew, right?
Well, and I think when we looked at the other programs, it didn't feel right. And
Mhm.
when we saw this one, we're like, this aligns with what we believe in.
Mhm.
It felt right when we found this one, so.
Excellent. It's gonna take time for, teachers to change over. We've been doing things differently for a long, long time, 12 years on one program and, science, we've been doing other things. So it takes a little time to get going. And I'm glad that Open Science gives you the grace to only do 4 units. Like, I mean, they advertise it, 4 units, just get your
Yeah.
feet wet, learn how to do it the right way, and then add on from there.
So I want to say thank you. I know I did have a slide later on Teacher Appreciation Week, but about going above and beyond and digging into this work and realizing that sometimes change can be good. I know it's difficult, but that change can be good. And it's good. I think one of the things that I love to hear was from Mrs. Gugino today, how she commented how middle school teachers are feeling about this, because that communication, that vertical alignment is so critical for our students to build on on their knowledge year in and year out. So that's awesome to hear. And I can tell you, Mr. Bakowitz, firsthand, that I know one of your students who would talk about science, about how fast the puck could come off a stick, but now he's talking about science in a whole different light. Yeah. And he also is accident prone, so if you do not use him for the breaking of the foot example, I would appreciate that.
X-rays in class.
Yes, well, yes.
And which is great because people are bringing X-ray discs in. Can you I want to see mine up there too. That's great. It's that buy-in from kids.
And I've been in contact with Dr. Wilson all along about this change. But I want to say I learned a lot from your communication home to parents about this change that is taking place in the classroom, and cannot say thank you enough for that email that you sent about that unit, about injuries and what students would be going through in your class during that unit. Because both, as a parent, I'll speak, both me and my wife really appreciated that level of communication, knowing that we could talk to our son about it, but knowing that, he'd also be excited to do that hands-on work. And so you're getting parent buy-in too, because of your communication home. So that's huge. Thank you. So thank you. And
Everybody.
during Teacher Appreciation Week, can't appreciate you enough for that work that you're doing. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yes. So you're more than welcome to stick around for safety code of conduct talk, but public hearing if you want to, but.
Gotta clear out a house. Huh?
Say it all the way back to the beginning again, right?
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Joanne Bayless. One of my hats here at Sweet Home is to serve as the Chief Safety Officer for the district. So I always appreciate the opportunity to present the annual public hearing on the district-wide school safety plan and code of conduct. I would be remiss if I didn't start today by mentioning that this afternoon, we were invited to the Amherst Police provided an in-service training today that they invited school districts to, and they had a drill at their facility on North Bailey, and it was a technical component and a command post component. And so while inside, the officers were responding to an active shooting, outside, the administrators on the scene were able to sit in the command post and watch it unfold. and learn how the emergency responders unfold and respond in terms of all the steps that they take. So I wanted to just thank Chief Chamberlain of Amherst PD for inviting us and Captain McNamara for organizing the event. And also on hand was our Director of Amherst Emergency Response Services, Jim Zmanek, who was outstanding to watch him in action. He's been a veteran, 45 years with Amherst Emergency Services. So it was a very really important opportunity and a continued partnership with Amherst PD. So just a thank you and kudos to Amherst for always being forward thinking and planning and including the school districts in their responses. I would just like to start on our next slide by thanking our district safety committee for the work this year. We have many members of our committee here, including Sheila Connor from Ready Academy, one of our high school social studies teacher who's been an active member of our district safety committee, and I always appreciate her feedback and input. From district office, Assistant Superintendents Feldman and Wilson, and our superintendent, Dr. Genestri, as well as our board president, Marianne Jason, Scott Johnson, and Sherry McNamara, district clerk. So a lot of important and helpful minds coming together each month or when we meet as a safety committee. This year, we did have our largest safety committee in recent history. There were 36 members on our team. And so I just really appreciated all of their voices. I did meet with the high school student safety committee as part of the high school student government team, and to share our safety message and get feedback from our student voice as well. On the next slide, some highlights of our work this year. Of course, we're finishing our project on the mass notification system. Our system is running live in all of our buildings with the exception of the middle school, Glendale and Maplemere. Middle school was just wired and should be up and running soon. And Glendale and Maplemere will be up and running by summer of 2023, this few short months. So we're excited about the finalizing that project and having all of our buildings with that important ability with the press of a button to set off our lockdown system, notify 911, set off our display lights and strobe lights, and to alert the entire building to a lockdown scenario. So we're glad to have that piece moving and coming to conclusion. It's been in the works for a couple of years. We also did some upgrades to our Raptor system. Our Raptor is our visitor management system. And we're looking at a new module as well that will add a reunification piece to the system, as well as drill management and a silent panic button. We also, as a committee, we did review several policies that were recommended to the board in February that you approved. We updated the school safety plan policy, the fire and emergency drills, as well as school bus safety. And again, those were approved by the board in February. And the last piece I didn't mention, and it is for the next slide, is we launched Gaggle this year. Gaggle is an online platform. If we move to the next slide, Gaggle is a content filtering application through Google. And what Gaggle does is it filters student work on our system, and it flags concerns for us that need to be looked into. And we are notified in two ways. One is a questionable content, which is when the reviewers of Gaggle seek content that's of concern, they notify us and our counselors, and we respond to it based on what the concern is. But there are also the highest level is a possible student situation. And that's where we actually get a phone call and a text from Gaggle, and if we don't answer in 5 minutes, they respond again and call us. And that means that there's a high alert and something that needs to be addressed immediately. There are very few of those, but we have gotten a couple this year. And we've worked in tandem with law enforcement and CPS and whatever else we might need, and any other agencies that we might need to support students who might be in immediate distress. But for the most part, we're seeing tags on our system for matters related to the top areas in the high school and middle school related to drugs and alcohol, suicide or self-harm, and violence. And it's been very helpful to see these trends in a format that our counselors can review and provide supports to our students. And we've gotten a lot of very positive feedback and to be able to see this data and be able to respond in real time. And it also, to the next slide, the system does differentiate between the things that are occurring during the school day or after hours. And it allows us to understand where kids are in need of supports and why. And it's also provided us an opportunity to build our team in terms of understanding student needs with our counselors and our administrators, because they're all on the list of people who are notified. So we're going to continue with the Gaggle platform. It also has an opportunity for kids to sorry. When kids want to anonymously or not anonymously ask for help, there is an opportunity, and I can't think of the name of the system, that they can reach out for help regardless of whether their document or what have you has been flagged. As far as the district safety, and then we're just going to move to the next slide. As far as the work of the district safety committee, it's a self-help. I'm sorry, I was trying to remember the name of it. The Google form, it's an online form that a student can fill out if they would like to ask a question or if they're in need of help, separate from having their content filtered. The district safety committee, as you know, is charged then with today is our annual public hearing on the code of conduct and the safety plan. So these are the two documents that we review annually. So our next slide shares with you just the overall regulation that sets forth our requirement to have a district-wide safety plan, and that it does require annual public comment, a 30-day comment period. And this is a document that is reviewed and approved by the Board of Education by September 1 annually. We also then have, the next slide is our emergency response plans at the building level. These are confidential plans. These are not part of our program this evening. It's not part of a public hearing. The confidential plans are very detailed, and they're the ones that are shared with law enforcement and are submitted to the state education department and are approved annually by October 1st of each year. These plans are the meat of our plans, our safety plans. And again, they're not for today, but it was interesting this afternoon when I was on the scene with the command post. They had the police had the command post set up, and within the command post, I said, "Can you find our building emergency response plans?" And they were able to immediately pull them up because they did use Sweet Home High School. We were the focus of the drill today. So they needed information from me as like an official or officer from Sweet Home. And so I wanted to know if they could immediately pull up our plans and if they had our maps, and it was all there on their system. So it was really cool to see that in action. The next several slides, just basically, and I won't read through them, but these are the sections of a district-wide school safety plan. There's general considerations. There's a section on general emergency response planning. The 3000 section is on responding to threats and acts of violence. The next slide, section 4000, is on communication. And finally, it's the section 5000 is on prevention and intervention strategies. And we didn't have changes to those particular items in the school safety plan this year. The big change in our plan is the next slide, which is the appendices to the district-wide school safety plan. Last year, you may recall that we added, the last couple of these that were added, Appendix 3 was added 2 years ago, where we added the need to put in the contracts and MOUs for law enforcement and security personnel, professional service contracts. Last year, we added the public employer health emergency plan. This year, the new plan that's been added is the cybersecurity plan. So you have a copy of the cybersecurity plan, and those of you who may want to see it online, it's attached to our documents today. But there is a cybersecurity plan. It's new. It was set forth in the next slide by the commissioner regulations. And it's required that all districts have an instant reporting and notification system for cybersecurity, and that these plans need to be in effect by September 1. The next slide is the cybersecurity plan itself. It includes definitions. On the screen, there are examples of definitions that you would find in the beginning of the plan that refers to an incident response team, incident management principles, cybersecurity incident phases, and then there's appendices that set forth all the forms and letters and logos that would guide our work in the event of a cybersecurity breach. I would like to thank the Erie One BOCES for providing a template for us for the cybersecurity plan itself. And I'd also like to specifically acknowledge Assistant Superintendent Don Feldman and the Technology Services team for helping put together that cybersecurity plan. And it sets forth who are the incident responders and how they would manage the incident and how they would report out the incident phases. So we do have a plan in place. It is in your the documents that you have if at some point you have any questions, and it is open for public comment. And then finally, our code of conduct. Annually, we are required to update our code of conduct. This is set forth by New York State Education Law 2801, and it requires districts to have a code of conduct that sets forth the expectations for conduct on school property. And again, this is reviewed annually. So there is a full version of the district's code of conduct, and there's also a plain language version. The plain language version is a much shorter, condensed version. You'll find it in our school calendar annually. It's also on our district website. And it's a shorter version that's more reader friendly, but there is also the full version of the code of conduct as well on our website. So the code of conduct, on the next slide, there are several sections to the code of conduct that are on the up there on the screen for you that include definitions, the student rights and responsibilities, our essential partners, what it means to be civil for our student behavior in our schools, and what's prohibited student conduct, dress code, and how we report violations. On the next slide, it shares out how the code of conduct sets forth our disciplinary consequences and procedures, alternative instruction, as well as discipline for students with disabilities. There's also some sections on corporal punishment, student search and interrogation, as well as visitors to the school. And finally, how we disseminate our code of conduct. So our district safety committee did review the code of conduct and made several recommendations for your review. In the beginning, one thing we did that you wouldn't necessarily see from the document itself is we did a number of formatting to clean up the document, and so it was easier to set forth instead of bullets. We put numbers and letters to help identify subsections of areas that made it a cleaner document. But then we also looked to upgrade areas, in particular academic misconduct under the plagiarism section, that we removed some outdated language references to the World Wide Web and added references to electronic sources for online platforms, including the new ChatGPT, so that we've got the newest terminology and platforms referenced in our code of conduct. The next recommendation from the committee was to update our civility and dress code section and add prohibited dress from blankets and prohibiting blankets and as worn attire in the school, and to add the word proper to footwear. And also under our prohibited student conduct, adding school security personnel as the only individuals who would be authorized on school property to have a weapon in their possession while on school property or at a school function. School personnel obviously refers to the VISTA security officers in our district. The next recommendation was on related to prohibited student conduct, was to remove the outdated section related to the district's mask protocol that was put into effect during the pandemic. And because it was so specific to wearing a mask as defined by protocol because of the pandemic itself, that we opted for language that would allow us to be more flexible for failure to comply with a federal or state mandate related to a pandemic or other emergency or natural disaster. So we went for more generalized language, so it wouldn't be too specific to a specific incident. And then finally, the last recommendation by the District Safety Committee was related under the disciplinary consequences, procedures, and referral section. And that was to eliminate the specific reference to middle school and high school students and make it simply students, so that in the event it could potentially include an elementary student, but that it was all students as opposed to specifically referencing middle school and high school. Those were then in sum, the recommendations by the District Safety Committee on the Code of Conduct. And then we just final notes today are that this does then begin the 30-day public comment period on the review of the safety plan and code of conduct. The period will run for 30 days through June 9th. We have this listed on our website. Those who are watching can refer to the website to see the actual copies. And if they have any comments or suggestions, they can send them to my attention, and that information is on the website as well. And then these plans will be scheduled for board approval in August. Finally, I would just mention on the horizon that while we do have our plans in place and we will continue to update them, obviously we update demographic information in an ongoing fashion. We will have our building level emergency response plans in place for the start of the school year. We are looking to continually update, and we do recognize that there's some recent public comment you may have heard in the news about reviewing lockdown drills, the frequency of the drills, whether or not there might be some type of parent opt-out option. So we're going to continue to track and monitor any changes. So there may be some updates, and we would bring those to you possibly for updates in August prior to the start of the school year. And with that, I open it up for any questions.
I would just like to say that being on the committee, you have just brought us to a new level from what it used to be. You really moved us forward where we needed to be. So thank you for all your input, and you just know how to, keep us on task when sometimes, we start to go in different tangents, but you really, I feel like this is really the purpose of this group, and we're making a difference. So
Well,
thank you.
I do appreciate that feedback, but I would just, share that obviously we have a great team of committed individuals at all levels of the organization that are laser focused on safety. So thank you to the board for your support in that regard.
And I would just like to say thank you to Mrs. Bayless as well. You're leading a large group on the safety committee, and it's not always easy with 30+ members, but all of their voices are so important in this work because safety, it's every person on duty for when it comes to safety. I am not exaggerating when I say we talk about it every single day at district office and how important it is. A couple members from district office will be headed to Albany for a conference at the end of the month on safety. And some of those updates that from the on the horizon slide that Mrs. Bayless was talking about. Just today, like you mentioned, you attended the drill hosted by APD, and they're running it a couple times this week again. It is just, we've talked about it in-house as even it becoming its own department. And that's what it's becoming because it's a daily conversation. And I know our internal team meets twice a week formally, and every one of those meetings, safety is on the agenda. So it's a 24/7 task, and just thank you for all your leadership on leading the group, but also all the efforts throughout the district. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. We have just a couple quick updates tonight. First, again, I wanted to say happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Obviously, you saw a small example tonight of the great work our teachers do on a daily basis. And we know they're much more than just educators. They're caretakers as well. And we just want to say thank you to all of our teachers. I'm glad I got to say thank you to a group. Of course, Sheila, you're here to hear the whole thing. So, no, thank you so much for all your work you do. And teachers deserve their own week. It's a time to celebrate all the great work that they do on a daily basis. So, thank you to all of our teachers. Tonight, we talked about it last week, but you will on the agenda is the school calendar. So we'll be happy to get that out there. If you have any questions, I know we presented it last week. Mrs. Bayless presented it last week, but we're excited to publish the calendar. Kind of the highlights that we followed the BOCES calendar closely because of many of our students attend BOCES programs, but also that April 8th, 2024 date when the eclipse comes. We will be off that day, but we're already talking about programming for students before that day so they can understand what the eclipse is about and be up to speed and knowledgeable about what they're going to be witnesses to that day. We also have a very exciting event coming up on May 18th that Mrs. Bayless is leading as part of our DEI initiative. Our Challenge to Change program will commence on May 18th. We have over 200 students ready to learn from change agents and become change agents themselves as part of the day throughout the district, grades 4 and up, grades 4 and up will be there. And it'll be at Banchetti's that day. We're calling it a Student Leadership Summit. And Mrs. Bayless, I don't know if you want to make any comments, but there has been extensive planning going on throughout district office, but also 2 separate occasions, students, the change agents, which are our students, have gotten together with some of their teachers to plan for the day as well. So I just, want to turn the floor over to you for a second to talk about what this day is shaping up to be.
Yeah, we're super excited to launch Challenge to Change, the student voice of our DEI initiative. We've moved our program from our DEI committee to taking that committee work to our faculty and staff this past year in our part 1 and part 2 of our staff development day. And then our next phase was to launch the student voice. So we launched a group of students from grades 4 to 12 who've come together on several occasions now. They've named themselves Students Act, the Alliance for Cultural Transformation. And this team is going to sponsor the Challenge to Change event on May 18th. So they've been trained in the same activities that we've done together as a staff and as a committee. And they will be working in partnership with one of our trained adults to bring the activities to our students. So again, Dr. Genestri mentioned we have 200 students registered. We have about 40 adults who are supporting the event. We have lined up a great keynote speaker, Dr. Barrett from Niagara University will be our keynote. And we also have invited and have just recently confirmed that Marquise Burton, who is going to be inducted into our Wall of Fame next Friday, is going to also present at our event. He is an accomplished poet and will be sharing his poetry with our students towards the end of the afternoon. So we're looking forward to the day of activities and bringing our kids together to pledge to be agents of change. So anyone, if you're available to stop by, we'd appreciate seeing you. And I know many of you, several of you, Ms. McDonald and Mr. Johnson are also coming to the event to work the event as members of our DEI committee. So thank you.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that logo that you see up on the screen. That was, Ms. Bayless talked about student voice, completely designed by our students that day of the first day of training. They wanted to play off of the term "We Are Sweet Home." And so you see a panther paw with "We empower, we love, we welcome, we belong." And the wall in the background is symbolic of breaking down walls and breaking down barriers with the panther paw. So that was, they did that in 20 minutes. And I told them that people get paid a lot of money to do things like that. And that's how inspired they are about that day. So t-shirts are being made with that logo on it. Can't wait to get mine and wear it that day. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Speaking of the Wall of Fame, our Wall of Fame induction ceremony is Friday night at 5:30 in the high school lobby. We are excited to induct 7 members or 7 alumni into the Wall of Fame. Kelly Brooks Bogaz, class of '87, Marquise Burton, class of 2005, our own Josh Feldman, class of 1994, Taylor Held, class of 2009, E. Brooke Lerner, class of 1989, Darcy Tolsma Spangler, class of 1976, and Jeffrey Umland, class of 1981. So Mrs. LeBrake is our alumni coordinator and has put the program together for that night. I was privileged to attend last year as well, and just a great night of meeting alumni and their families, and just a lot of smiles and excitement in the room. So can't wait for Friday night to add some well-deserved plaques to the wall. And then tomorrow, I know I've updated the board, but we are very excited to have Lisa LeBrake be a finalist for the New York State Teacher of the Year Award. And there is a site visit to the high school tomorrow where 2 carloads, I guess, of the New York State Education Department employees will be here at the high school for a full day with Mrs. LeBrake and high school administration and myself to talk about her teaching and her career. So just keeping our fingers crossed, but even to make the 3rd round is a huge, huge honor. To have a site visit is a huge honor, but we are definitely in it to win it and pulling out all the stops tomorrow. So keep our fingers crossed and wish Mrs. LeBrake nothing but the best. And then we are also excited that 2 of our proposals were accepted to be presented at the New York State School Boards Association Annual Convention this October. We had 2 of our 3 proposals accepted. So we'll be presenting on DEI and student leadership, and we'll be presenting on our electric bus strategy with our partners from Wendell, NYSERDA, and National Grid. So, we like to take leadership roles, especially recognizing the great work that we've been doing here, and super excited to be able to present, and especially since it's in Buffalo, have Sweet Home well represented at the annual convention. Just a reminder of our music concerts coming up throughout May. I know I mentioned it last week, but we probably missed the 8th grade orchestra. But you can definitely pick up 2 concerts tomorrow and the rest of the week and throughout May. And then in June, we've had the exciting presentations for the Board of Education throughout June. We'll be presenting on our strategic plan, the year-long effort to basically take our vision and run it through a strategic plan of on curriculum instruction, where we want the district to go in curriculum and instruction. Our DEI presentation we've invited all members from every subcommittee and district committee to be here. We'll have our retirement and tenure reception as well. We'll have a presentation on attendance and wellness, and a final report from our building use committee. That's what we have. If there's any questions?
Somewhere in there, we're gonna have to fit, Josh requested that, Chef.
So I did talk to Mrs. LeBrake, and she was going to take it back to the executive board. They might be able to do something at the July or August meeting. She's going to check with the board for that. So she's all on that. 2 things I did forget to mention. Number 1, the budget vote is next Tuesday. So anybody watching at home, we encourage you strongly to come out and vote on the budget and board candidates. And then up for your vote tonight, we are excited to present our candidate for our Director of Curriculum and Instruction position, Beth Kozakowski, who's in the audience tonight. Went through a very rigorous process, I would say, for sure, and very excited to bring her background, knowledge, and expertise to Sweet Home to work side by side with Dr. Wilson.
What happens if people come for the vote and they get hungry for
There
chicken?
is a chicken barbecue. So as you approach the district office, at what time will you start to smell the charcoal?
Smell charcoal around 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
We'll start to serve around 4.
4 o'clock.
First come, first serve.
Yes.
All for dollars.
That hour, like right before the end of the day, between like 2, 3:30, that's gonna be real hard.
Yeah.
In this area over here specifically.
Oh, it smells
Yep.
so
And I
good.
believe also the Education Foundation is doing a little goodie
A bake
dessert
sale.
sale thing to go along with it.
I have to reserve 10 dinners for the building use committee.
Sold. I'll make you a deal.
All right, checks in the mail. All right.
All right, and that's it.
That is it.
So
So thank you,
lots of
everybody.
events coming up, lots of concerts that you mentioned. So next, that takes us to new business. Could I have a consent agenda for A, special education, B, our monthly financial, C is our different bids, D is our request for proposal from printer management, E is our school calendars, F is our corrective action plan, G is our corrective action plan to the internal audit, H is our revised policies, I is our annual district vote. I'd like to pull J to vote on that separately, please. And K is our partial real property tax exemption for our volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers. L is our disposal of obsolete property. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, let's talk about things. All right, first is our special ed. I got through all 501 pages with nothing, thank you, Sherry, with nothing special. I just, every time I read end of years, it's just amazing how our special ed teachers they know their craft well, and they've got such a great, our kids are their interest, and they just have the best interests of our kids at heart. So thank you to them. Next is our monthly financial reports. Anything? C is our bids for health, medical supplies, emergency transportation, athletic and physical education supplies. D is our request for proposal, printer management and remote print access. E is our district calendars, district attendance calendar, district payroll, and district holiday calendars. F is our corrective action response to the state controller. G is our corrective response to the internal audit. H is our revised policy, second reading. I is our chief election inspector for the annual district vote. K is our partial real property tax exemption that we heard about last month and last week for volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers. L is our obsolete property disposal. Any questions, concerns? All right, I call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then let's go back to J, which is our BOCES Dexter Sweet Home contract. I have a motion to accept J.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments, concerns? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstain?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. All right, that takes us to informational items.
Had to leave.
Did he just leave?
Yeah.
Oh, driver, okay.
He wanted to make sure you all knew that he didn't really have a report this week because they're going to meet next week. And so he'll have an update.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Did he get a hold of the Amherst Bee? I want to see that
I was gonna
article.
ask him and I don't know that. I'll find out tomorrow. I've sent him, they've tried to connect a number of times.
All right, thank you. Peter?
Just some upcoming events. I know Glendale has a Mother's Day flower sale this Thursday and Friday. They have a fun run on the 19th, their leadership assembly on the 22nd. I just have a bunch of things that I need to attend over the next couple of weeks. So
Okay, sounds
That's about
good.
it.
Thank you. Scott?
Okay, last week in my role as an ambassador for NISBA, I went to Naga Wheatfield for the beginning of their board meeting and did an applause for the cause award to their hockey team and coach. They had gone up to Messina area to play a couple of hockey games, came back and helped lay down a floor put down the floor actually in a canine training facility for veterans. So it was quite an interesting project that the boys did there. And I also did and awarded them 2 NISBA recognition awards for that master's sportsmanship program that 2 of their members had worked away along the process. On the 4th, myself, Dr. Genestri, and Mr. Feldman met with Senator Gallivan to discuss in particular the Child Victims Act and how different school districts might be funding or not being able to fund any cases that come through. A lot of what we talked about, I wouldn't repeat in public again, just because the information's, at least some of what we were trying to make sure that the senator understood it all. He gave us some good points that they really need to hear it from around the state. He said his colleagues aren't talking about it yet, but some of the people brought up because it's at this point, cases are just starting to get settled. I know one of our local school districts has already bonded $10 million to cover parts of their settlement, not all of it. And it's going to cost their taxpayers $2.2 million a year to pay that back. out of their budget. So their point was to, can we find a way to have the state, they created this for us. Yes, we recognize the problem, but for the cases that we cannot find that are insured and we can't work out all the details, that the state would be able to help out with the funding on that. There is a bill out there right now to establish a fund. And there was also some more discussion that it might be better off that it came back as expense paid based aid. So it was an interesting conversation all the way around. And I'm going to push for it. I'm going to ask our board and probably a couple of the other school districts to help sponsor a resolution for the NYSBA business meeting to also bring this through on a statewide effort.
When are you looking to do that?
They're due. I'd have to look up the memo. They're due within the next couple of months to go back to the.
So we have time.
Yeah, it's not an immediate one. Let's see. This morning I met with some of Tracy's colleagues from Harris Beach. They do training sessions on a regular basis throughout the area. Especially this morning, it was the subject of this morning's and some updates and some changes to the laws and how some of them were interpreted and some other ones very interesting. I was glad I was able to find the time to meet them. That's it.
All right, thank you. Haley.
That's it, he says.
I know. I think Scott did enough
for
everybody.
I attended the health and wellness meeting and that's it. It was 4 minutes long. It was a little longer than that.
Forgot about it. It was a quick one. It was quick.
And I don't have anything from
Thank
last.
you, Haley. Thank you, Josh.
Just upcoming tomorrow, I'll be attending the concert, the blues concert. My daughter plays sax. And then the teaching and learning committee tomorrow afternoon.
I know you like that. Thank you, Brian. Amy.
I attended the building use committee meeting yesterday. We have another meeting next week. We're highly motivated to get this under control and the ball rolling. And so we meet again next week. I have a dinner this week, next week. Next Thursday. I can't keep all of my nights at Sweet Home straight. I just, other than that, just sporting events and our teams are doing great. Thank God the weather finally broke.
And that's it.
Then that's it.
That's it. First off, I'd just like to say on behalf of the Board of Education to Dr. Toya Wilson, congratulations. Tell us what
So it was actually focused on math.
Okay.
Go figure. But my project was focused on supporting students surviving poverty. The program was a study designed to support equitable access and for students having access to higher level math. So
we are so proud of you. You represent Sweet Home well, and just to Dr. Genestri and Dr. Wilson, just congratulations. That was a lot, many years of hard work. So,
yeah,
we're glad you're with us.
May 19th, it all comes to mind.
Are you going to walk the stage, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
yes.
are. We're
Yes,
going
we
to
are.
bring back pictures.
Yes.
Good job. I know it's Teacher Week, but it's also Nurses Week. I'd like to say thank you to our school nurses. They just, through the pandemic, through everything, they have gotten us through. We would not be where we are today. And just thank you for all the effort and taking care of our kids that they do. Christina Pinkowski sent me the greatest message. One of her parents called to thank her. The therapy dogs came to see her son, I believe.
Yeah, I got it too. That
You
was
got
awesome,
it
yeah.
too. And just said, what a difference in this child's life that just having the therapy dogs there made. I think they had a recent death in the family, and those therapy dogs really serve their purpose. So thank you, Christina. And then Heritage Heights PTA meeting yesterday. They talked about the meat raffle success of that. We elected some new board members to their PTA and looking for a few more to step up and take leadership roles. And I think that's it. That's enough. All right, that takes us to our second open session. So let me read. As per board policy 1512, we hold 2 open sessions at each meeting. This second session may be used to address the board on topics appropriate for open session. The board welcomes attendance and participation by district residents, people having business within the boundaries of the school district, and people who do business with the Board of Education. Speakers must be at least 16 years of age and will be limited to 3 minutes. Please preface your comments with your name, address, and group affiliation. If appropriate, non-district residents must include the name of their business or how they do business with the Board of Education. I have to say, that little girl has been so well behaved. Wow, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. And Amy has, so you can see it, just your clock for 3 minutes.
It gets bigger.
Oh, okay. My name is Roberta Mullins. I am at 205 North French Road, and I have a little one at Willow Ridge, and I have a middle school student. I know that it's come up at meetings before, but I think since as far as I know, decision has been made yet for next year, I just wanted to express that unfortunately, not everybody could be here tonight, but there is a big concern about the kids still eating in their classrooms. So from a cold food standpoint to a socialization standpoint to a using aids for classroom lunch monitors instead of with students, we've all kind of come together to say that we are really, really, really pushing for this to change for the next school year. We were disappointed, to say the least, that it didn't change this school year. I know that I've talked to teachers across the district. I've talked to parents across the district. And honestly, the only concerns that have come up was that parents are concerned about the thought that classroom sizes would need to be increased in order to move kids out of the into the cafeteria, I guess. I know Willow Ridge, I believe, lost students, so I'm not sure how we were able to house the students appropriately in small classroom sizes prior to COVID, that we wouldn't be able to do that again. And again, I don't have students and other ones, but I have spoken to teachers across the district, and I know that they do not have that concern about increasing class sizes. We do have relatively small classroom sizes as it is, and to increase that by a couple seems to be worth it for the socialization and the benefit of the kids. So hopefully that's something that you guys will give consideration to and something that we can look forward to next year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Brandon Beckenhausen, candidate for school board. I want to ask the board or anyone who can answer this. How does somebody get an agenda item onto the actual agenda for the night? Because we had a lot of parents here earlier today who wanted to speak, and they have children, they have lives, they have to get home, take care of things. It seems a little bit unfair to the parents who come here to speak to the board, and they can't speak in the first session because it's not on your agenda. I know you guys want to be transparent, and I think this would help with the transparency if these parents can actually speak in the first session. One of the things I might propose is possibly opening a committee for parents so they can actually have an agenda item on the board agenda each meeting and speak in the first session. Is that something you guys would be willing to do?
This isn't really the forum for answering questions.
I'll leave that open for you guys to consider then. I would hope that you would consider making it easier for parents to voice their concerns. And also if you can send some kind of communication out before the next meeting, how they can get something on the agenda so they could speak earlier than waiting until, what is it, almost 9:30. So I do want to point that out, that these parents do have lives and children that they have to go home to. And if you can make it easier for them, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Next, that takes us to personnel. Could I have a consent agenda for teaching and administrative as well as service?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight? We will not be going to executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
We will not be
at
taking any
9:03.
votes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Comments or disagreements? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I was fully prepared to have another